The draft City of Inglewood 2023 through 2024 Annual Action Plan.
Has the notice of the hearing been given in the time, form, and manner as required by law? And do you have the affidavit on file?
Yes, Mayor, notices have been given and an affidavit is on file.
Have any communications been received on the matter?
Yes, Mayor, communications have been received, passed out to the mayor and council members.
Mr. City Manager, is the staff report ready?
Yes, Mr. Roberto Chavez, Programs Manager, will give the staff report.
Welcome, Mr. Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, members of the council, members of the public. Thank you for your time and attention. Yes, we're here today to conduct a public hearing for the annual action plan for the CDBG program for fiscal year 23 through 2024. It is recommended that we conduct a public hearing today to consider the adoption of the draft City of Inglewood 2023 Annual Action Plan, receive public comment, adopt the annual action plan, and close the public hearing. I prepared some slide presentations for the audience so we could follow along on some of the elements of the plan. The 2022 to 2026 Consolidated Action Plan. Basically, it's a 5-year plan of how the city intends on using its CDBG and home programs, or any CPD, which is the Community Plan and Development grant funding. So that's a 5-year snapshot of how we intend to utilize these funds. And I won't go through each of these points. So as part of the plan is the Consolidated Action Plan, which is a 5-year plan. Then we have the Annual Action Plan, which is how we carry out the activities. It also includes the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice and Community Participation Plan, also referred to as a CPP. We'll go over some funding. CDBG and home allocation for fiscal year 22 to 23. As of March 2023, the City of Inglewood received its allocation of CDBG and home funds for fiscal year 23 through 2024 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also referred to as HUD, Office of Community Planning and Development, CPD, to address the affordable housing needs in the community development needs. As you can see, for CDBG, we received just over 1.2 million. For the home program, just over 800,000. This reflects a decrease in CDBG funding of about 1.5%. And for home funds, that represents about a 9.7% decrease year over year. And this next chart illustrates the year over year comparison from the last fiscal year to this upcoming fiscal year, 2023 through 2024. Moving right along. CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Program, provides annual grants on a formula basis to entitlement cities and counties to develop urban communities by providing decent housing and a sustainable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities, principally for low and moderate income persons. CDBG budget. We've created a little chart that kind of describes how the funds will be utilized. In light blue, we have public services, about 15%. Administration is about 20%. In the dark blue, and in green, you'll have the eligible activities, which takes the lion's share of the funding. That's CDBG funding. What we have is a little breakdown of the funding for the CDBG program. As described earlier, administration is about $249,000. Public services, the 15%. And you can see some of the programs we utilize it for: senior meals and fair housing counseling. Public improvement services includes park infrastructure improvement, minor home rehabilitation program, which is a pretty popular program here in the city. Moving right along. Home Investment Partnership Act. This is another program that we get funding for, and the purpose is to expand and preserve the supply of decent, safe, sanitary, and affordable housing, with primary attention to rental housing for very low income and low income families. And here's how that budget is broken out. In light blue, we have administration, about 10%. In dark blue, we have Chodo funding, which is Community Housing Development Organization. We have about 15% there. And the lion's share of it, 75% in green, is for eligible activities that are about 75% and broken out on this next chart here. Other CDBG and home news. The city anticipates using home program funds to build and redevelop more affordable rental and home buyer opportunities. The minor home program was relaunched in May of 2022 to provide $15,000 in grants per eligible household using prior year CDBG funding. As funding is available, this will continue to be a multi-year program for low-income homeowners in the city of Inglewood. The CDBG division received 23 completed surveys regarding the use of CDBG and home funds. The comment period was a 30-day period from June 14th through August 12th. So we encourage folks to continue to submit their comments. Action plan schedule and recommendations. The 2023 through 2024 annual action plan is due to HUD by August 16th, 2023. With that, we'll take any public comments.
Are there any members of the public that wish to comment on the plan?
If I read the report, I'm hearing you correctly, are you allocating $700,000 of $1.2 million towards bathroom improvements? Did I just hear that? Community block development grants. You're spending $700,000 to renovate Centinela Park bathrooms? I really want to get some clarity on that. That is an abuse of taxpayers' funds. Are you telling me that out of $1.2 million, you're spending $700,000 on renovating bathrooms? Let's not even talk about that process. This process, since this administration has come in, it dissuades people from getting into the process. Because if I remember correctly, these surveys went out Memorial Day weekend. Most people are not paying attention because 23 return surveys is not a true sample size of what the city wants. And I'm sure, I'm gonna bet 23 people say, you know what, it's a great idea. We have $1.2 million in CBDG funds, and let's spend $700,000 towards bathroom renovations. Please tell me you're not gonna disrespect this community by saying you're gonna spend $700,000 of $1.2 million for bathrooms. Please tell me that's not what we're doing on this good Taco Tuesday.
Hello, Mayor and Council. In seeing that report, I saw that the funding has decreased. And I was just trying to find out why, or if you know why it's decreased and how it's going to affect what the plan is for the city.
The allocations change from year to year depending on the agency. Any other public comments? All right, with that, we'll close public comment. If there are no council comments, is there a motion to move 1 and 2? All right, Councilwoman Gray, District 1.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm referring to page 5 of 7, and I think a member of the public mentioned about the restroom rehabilitation at Vincent Park, and I think I asked a question at the last meeting if there were any plans, and I see this is in the report. So if the council approves this today, that's part of the plan to renovate the restroom at Vincent Park.
That is correct.
Okay, just one, because I know it was stated last week there were no plans.
There are no plans because there can be no plans unless we make an approval. And because it was not on last week's agenda, to discuss it would have been a Brown Act violation because it was not agendized. That's why. There were no plans last week.
Thank you. I have further questions. On page 6 of 7, there is an allocation for the rent relief program. I think it's 1.2+ $1 million. And in your report, and first of all, thank you for your report very much. And I've read the staff report, but thank you for presenting. You're saying that staff will bring proposed programs for the utilization of these funds for city council consideration. So what are some of the plans?
Good question. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Um, Essentially, one of the considerations is because this is a CDBG CV funding, coronavirus funding, it has to be related to the pandemic. So one of the considerations that we're gonna maybe propose here is that we implement an HVAC program, which is an air conditioning program for public facilities such as libraries or other senior centers, et cetera, similar to that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Morales.
I just wanted to point out a few things. So, CDBG funds are not like they're restricted funds that we get from the federal government, and it's based on a criteria. Am I right in terms of economic levels throughout the cities that they govern? Correct.
That is correct.
So the fact that it decreases means we meet less of that criteria, which actually means that the folks in Inglewood are improving a bit, which is a good sign. That being said, the city, I have to say, over all my years here, has done an excellent job of balancing and really leveraging these CDBG funds. And you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but we use a certain amount of for things. It could be the improvement of the bathroom. It could be streets and sidewalks in areas that they qualify for, so that then we can use other funding in areas that don't qualify for CDBG funds. And thus we get more streets, sidewalks repaired every year. So this is something that has happened throughout the years that has really allowed us to kind of make certain improvements. I have to tell you, facilities like public bathrooms in a park are extremely expensive. And to set aside $1 million for a bathroom a year, that's a lot of money. So, but the need continues. Our park at Vincent Park is so beautiful. It's a 55-acre regional park. It's an amazing park. The fact that we are focusing on that park and giving it some long, really needed help for the bathrooms. And I hope we continue there over the years with CDBG and other funds to make the walk path better for folks, to just create the environment that the residents deserve. So I just wanted to point out the fact that even though, it appears that we isolate these funds for certain things, there has been a significant amount of strategy over the years to really leverage these funds in the best way possible. I just wanted to point that out,
Okay.
Mayor.
Councilman Padilla.
Thank you. And first off, Roberto, thank you. You always do great presentations. And
Thank you, sir.
I hope you and the audience, really appreciate this type of in-depth coverage of how these funds are going to be allocated. And these public hearings are for that. These public presentations are for that. Everything that we do is so that we keep our community informed. Now, when it comes to the CDBG funds, when it comes to these home funds, there's all these guidelines, regulations, things that we have to adhere to in order to make sure we're spending this money appropriately. So it's not anything where it's willy-nilly, we're just gonna go ahead and throw this out there and do this and that. Far from it. Our staff really, gets together and really thinks about what is it that we need as a community that is the best use of these limited funds. And so for years, we've always had these hearings and we'll continue to make sure that the public is aware and they can participate and give us their feedback and their insight. And so it's important for us to understand that there is a process to this. And today is part of that process. So thank you, everybody. And Mr. Chavez, thank you again.
Ms. Chavez, it's pretty expensive to renovate a park bathroom, isn't it?
It is, sir.
I've approved budgets where we've, in the past, have spent as much as $400,000 to renovate a bathroom.
Yes.
Okay, and it's because they're special facilities, they're concrete. The plumbing is extremely heavy-duty industrial finishes and the surfaces are
ADA.
special. We have ADA requirements, so it's not just a toilet and a sink. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and so they're pretty expensive. Now, let's get to the whole thing about how the city plans. Now, first of all, we couldn't plan to renovate a bathroom because we had a public hearing coming. Is that right? We could only say, you could only make a suggestion. Do you make the determination as to what we're going to do with funds?
I do not.
You make recommendations. Is that right?
Recommendations, that's
so,
correct.
as we sit here right now, there are no plans, are there? There's a recommendation.
There's a recommendation before you.
Okay. Now, can we discuss your recommendations if they're not agendized on a council agenda?
I don't know the answer to that question, sir. Sorry.
Mr. City Attorney.
The answer is no, it has to be agendized.
Exactly. And so if someone asks, do we have plans and it's not agendized, the truth, and we haven't approved it, the reality is we haven't.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. So I just wanted to make that really clear.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Can I,
Councilwoman Falk.
thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you again for that report. And I just wanted to add into what my colleagues have said about the bathrooms. They're so important to a community like ours. We have kids going through the parks regularly. We have adults, seniors. Everybody utilizes those spaces, and it's very important to provide safe, clean, nice facilities for people to use when they're at the park. So I like the recommendation. I think that they're so important, and I agree with the recommendation. I also wanted to ask if you can share a little bit. I know one of our residents mentioned that there were 23 comments, and so I wanted to see if you can expand a little bit more about how we go about trying to get community input for the comments.
Sure. So annually, we send out a survey, and that survey goes out to the community. And that process started in May, as someone mentioned earlier. And we are engaged with the public. We do public meetings as well, and we advertise for those so that we encourage people to come in. And the overall consensus in a lot of those comments that we did receive was that more affordable housing is necessary.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Atwell, as it relates to like projects, because I really want to be clear on this, adopting this annual action plan does not mean that now we have plans to go out and renovate the bathrooms in Edward Vincent Park tomorrow. There's more other processes that have to occur. Is that not right?
That is correct. We have to go through bid processes. We have to allocate the funds. There's general funds involved. Mm-hmm. This is just a portion of.
But even before that, the council has to approve a budget that has a capital allocation to authorize staff to even go through a bid process.
Correct.
So right now there are no plans. Is that right?
That's correct. There's no project and there's no plans.
Okay, so when I said that last week, was that correct?
I believe it was correct because I mean it's really it's based on terminology as the counselor said. Really, it could be a concept or it could be a vision, but not necessarily a plan.
And we could not discuss any of these aspirations in a non-agendized subject. If it's not on an agenda, we couldn't discuss it at a council meeting.
Right. If we were going to bring it forward, as the attorney said, we cannot discuss it before.
Thank you. So there's a motion.
So moved. 1 and 2.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Gray,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Falk,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye.